What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam World, and in today's video we're going to be looking at Outputs Portal. Now, I bought this thing I believe last year on sale for $100, and when I first got it I was just utilizing the patches to a point where I didn't really find it that useful until I learned how to use it. So in today's video we're going to be looking at what it can do, and if you like the effects that you hear with it, well, now you know what it can give you. With that being said, guys, if you want to support the channel, make sure to head over to evilsounds.com, and let's get straight into this video. Now, guys, what we're going to do here is we're going to utilize a vocal for the beginning of this tutorial because it's a lot easier to understand what's going on with this plugin when there's syllables, when you can hear the vocals, the timing, etc. Because usually with granulation, what you're doing is you're grabbing little snippets or grain sizes, let's say, from the vocal, and then you're modulating the time in them. Now, Portal does not work this way to an extent. Instead, it's going to be more of an effect. Think of it as sort of giving you glitches, weird atmospheric stuff, but you can also utilize it to make your leads sound more interesting and do a lot of cool stuff with it. So we're going to open up Portal on the vocal and get to work. So when we first open it up, we're going to have here the XY axis. So if you've ever used like the Korg something, you can kind of modulate stuff when you can route these macros to certain things. If you're utilizing the patches, these macros will be routed to specific things the sound designer that created them wanted you to do. However, for me, I find more use of it knowing how to use it and keeping it simple. Okay, so what we're going to do here, guys, is here we're going to have the grain controls, and we're going to have here this vocal from a pack I'm working on with Martin Karma, a techno pack. Should be coming out at the end of March, early April.
What once was lost can be found again.
So that's how it's going to sound like. Now, if we turn on Portal, just default, this is how it sounds like.
What once was lost.
You can kind of see like there's a vibrato effect or a gate. Okay, and that's what this is going to do, but we can mess with it in certain ways to get abstract stuff, make the vocal sound a certain way, give it a delay that's more interesting than putting an echo boy, etc. on it. Sound Toys will have, I believe, Crystallizer, which is similar to this to an extent. So what we're going to do here, first off, is the size of our grain. So remember, we're looking at this audio source coming in, and Portal's going to be looking at it as it goes, and then from there, you're going to be able to kind of choose density, essentially how often we'll be looking at the audio buffer or the sound coming in order to kind of replicate something with it, and then from the way that we alter that, that's how it's going to affect it. So this is how often it does that. So 116, you're going to notice you get the little gate. Then to the right of that, we have the size. Now, the size, usually I'll have it locked just because 1 to 2, 1 to 4 makes a little bit of sense to me. And notice what happens when I lower that down.
What once was lost. What once was lost.
You're going to notice, again, the higher you go, the longer that, let's call it gate, but delay is going to be, and the lower, the more smaller it's going to be. So again, this is kind of working in conjunction with our density, how often it's looking, and then what size that grain size is going to be, best way to put it. But in essence, how big, how like you want it to be. Man, that sounded a little, yeah. But anyways, from there, we're going to have access to an offset, which we'll talk about and all this stuff. So from there, you have the size and your density. So it kind of makes sense. Now below that, you're going to see there's this little triangle, which comes in handy if you want to add a bit of randomization to happen. So if I do this here, what's going to happen is you can see at the bottom right here, density random. It's going to let us know how much randomness there's going to be. So
what once was lost can be found.
So the idea of this is if you're using this like sorts, you're going to run this at 50% dry and wet here.
What once was lost can be found again.
And you can see it's kind of giving it a little bit of like little stutters here and there while still maintaining the original vocal without the stutters. Now, below that, we're going to have the pitch section, which we're going to skip for now. But below that, we have the pan. So we can pan this effect.
What once was lost.
To the left or to the right.
What once was lost.
But the way I like to use it personally, especially if we're going to use it on a monophonic sort of sound or centered sound that has not a lot of width, but it does have a left and right channel to it, is that we can add a bit of randomness to it so that we get a bit of an auto pan effect.
What once was lost can be found again.
Okay, so let's lower down the triangle, and again, you can do this with anything that has a triangle on it, or a diamond, per se. I don't know my shapes like that. I flunked elementary school, if you can't tell.
What once was lost.
Okay, now, above that, we have the pitch controls, and this is where it gets a little bit more fun, because we can take this into complex territory. But to keep it simple, we're going to have our scale here, which is going to let us know, okay, I want the pitch to change based on octaves, fifths, chromatic, which just means all the keys, pentatonic minor, pentatonic major scale, etc. So you get the idea there. So if I go octaves, I can put this up in octave here. One up.
What once was lost can be found again.
Okay, and then back.
What once was lost can be found again.
So from there, guys, we have a couple of more knobs to talk about. We do have the shape. So the shape, again, lower is going to be more abrupt, while higher is going to be a little bit more smoother.
What once was lost can be found again.
So think of it as you're going from like very like kind of like instant to more of a gradual sort of thing. So that's the higher shape that we go. To the left of that, we have the count, and the count's only going to matter, or sorry, the offset is only going to matter when you have more than one count. So as you're creating these grain, this grain source, this is going to say how many variations of it you're going to create. So let's say you want 8 to come out every time it activates. And then the offset is going to offset each one of those individually.
What once was lost can be found again.
Now, if I lower this down, you're going to notice
what once was lost can be found again.
It just changes something a little bit, as you can tell there. So that's what the offset's for, and you can also lock it to be in 1:1, 1:8, 1/4 format if you like that a lot more. But I personally run this one in MS, so not sync to the density there. Okay, so we can kind of go there.
What once was lost can be found again.
Now from here we can do a stretch to the vocal, and what this is going to do is, again, it's just going to kind of slow it down.
What once was lost can be found again. Can be found again. What once was lost can be found again.
Okay, so again, you can kind of create these like weird, sort of like we're in a different dimension where for some fucking reason people talk like, well, you know, like, hey, what's up? Say, but you get the idea with that. So to the right of that, we're going to have the grain delay. The grain delay is just going to be a delay that is based on grain. Honestly, for me, the best way for you to understand is just to hear what it does.
What once was lost can be found again. What once was lost can be found again.
And a lot of times you can read the manual and see what it says, like, oh, it increases the grain delay, and you're like, what does that mean? But again, I think it's better to use it as long as you understand what a delay is. The feedback is how often it's going to repeat. We have a high pass, so this is going to cut the lows as you go from left to right. You're cutting lows out. So maybe the delay you want it to be a little bit different sounding, then that's when you can utilize this and sort.
What once was lost can be found again.
You can kind of hear the delays now because I'm cutting drastically. You're going to see here. We're going to cut a little bit.
What once was lost,
there's a delay,
can be found again.
Now, if I mess with this pitch, let's say we put it up 1, we'll go octave on it. You're going to hear it a lot more.
What once was lost, can be found again.
Okay, now we're going to cut it left.
What once was lost, can be found again.
Okay, yeah, so it sounds a little like questionable, as you can see. Okay, cool. So we've gotten through that. Now, below the grain controls is going to be more effects, which are going to be more basic. Now, you can run this dry and wet here, as you can see, halfway. If, let's say, you want to run this wet and you want the original sound source to get the same effects that you're going to be putting on your grain delays, your granularization, then you run this at 50% so that you can actually put the same exact reverb or effect that we're going to be running here. So, for instance, I could put reverb.
What once was lost can be found again.
I like this better because if I run this at 100 and I put the dry and wet at 50%.
What once was lost can be found again.
See, and now if I put this at 50, to me it sounds a lot better. It sounds like the vocal gets it and it fits. It sells the effect a lot more.
What once was lost can be found again.
Okay, now here you're going to have your effects. So again, we're going to have access to these, and these are just going to be standard, like the
what once was lost.
And you use it in conjunction with what you're doing up here. You can use it in conjunction with the
what once was lost can be found again.
Okay, so these are going to just be standard effects. Not going to spend too much time on them. Big
what once was lost can be found again.
So here you can run maybe half and half.
What once was lost.
If that's the effect you're trying to go for, again, there's a lot to do. And we're going to have standard effects that we know, and a filter, of course, if you want to cut the certain thing.
What once was lost can be found again.
All right, guys, now let's add Portal to a piano chord here. So we're going to have the chords here, which are going to sound like this. Very dark, deep, sexy. Okay, so if we turn on Portal, we already know what's going to happen. We're going to get sort of like a gape vibrato effect. So again, if you like that, you can add Portal just like that. Makes it sound a lot more interesting just because of the little flutters. You can reverse it. So you get like a nice little thing. Auto pan if you wanted to do that really cool effect. Again, we're running this at 50%. So that way the effect doesn't engulf the actual sound. Like so. So now it sounds more interesting than like that. Now we got that nice little thing going on. Now we can lower this down so it's more staccato-ish, the effect. Now it's more glitty. We got reverses going on it. Let's make it the other way. And again, now from there, if you want that to just sound a little bit more up, we can mess around. We can do fifths. Let's try that. Now that sounds a little bit more electronic. I don't know if I like it, but that's the vibe there. Octave. Again, more electronic. But let's go back to what we had. Let's put a bit of grain delay here. Just play around with the values. Messing around with the stretch. We can control the volume with the drum wet. Let's add some reverb to really sell the effect a bit. I am gonna agree with you that I think reverses sound better. And now maybe one up. Okay, now there's a couple of things we haven't talked about. One of them is the mod. So if you want to modulate stuff in here, like let's say the reverb or anything, then that's where the mods come in. You can click on the plus and drag it. For instance, maybe we'll try it on the pitch going up and down. I've never been a fan of this, but I know Flume does it a lot. But again, I'm not a fan of it too much on the piano sound, but you're going to see what it sounds like, and we're going to play this. Now maybe we can put more delay. There we go. Now from there, we can mess with density. Again, you can route it to anything you really want. So that kind of slows it down. 116, we'll go lower. There we go. Maybe the size a little up. And we can also mess with the size as it's happening. So we can do like maybe 101 and increase the size as it goes. And from here, you can click different like patterns that they've given you. So maybe we could go slower on some of these. And there we go. And the idea of this is, again, it's just making that original piano sound more interesting. And this is what we're adding to it. Now we can put this at 50% here, so that way we can run this same piano into the reverb and delay we have. And now it feels like it's all together rather than normal piano, etc. Now from there we can mess around bit reducer, maybe a little bit. We'll layer this on top. And again, another way to kind of make it interesting. Maybe not so much. And again, this is making this just sound a lot more interesting. Now, again, I like doing stuff like this because I use a lot of the effects in Portal and they're just too crazy, too hectic for me. I like stuff like this where it's slight and it's a little bit more flavorful to it. Okay. Now, the other thing I do have to say is for some reason, let's say you want to run the XY axis. So you want to run this guy and you want to automate it. The way you do that, again, you just drag, let's say for some reason on the density, you want to do that. And then you can just, again, add it to the randomness maybe, which that's not what I didn't want to do. I just wanted to the density there. And now we can kind of say, okay, we want it to go all the way up, like let's say. And then as I do that, this guy as well, maybe goes back a bit. And here you can see we're going to turn the knob. And it gets really nice. And then from macro 2, you can, I don't know, do the cutoff on it. And you know what? This might be a cool idea if we put the macro on our grain delay as well, going this way. So let's see how that sounds like and just have fun. If we get rid of the bit reducer, that's how it sounds like, okay? All right, guys, so here we're gonna have just a standard saw sound. So the first thing is we can put this fully up in reverse. One on one. And then we can get this sort of delay on it. Or you could do it like this. I mean, that's totally fine. Just depends what your goal is with it. Let's play around. If you like that, maybe we can put a filter on this. And then shape that. And then we can put an envelope follower. So we make a new sound out of the one we have. Now, if you want to get fancy, then you could start to do what we did before, randomize. Again, a little too hectic for my taste, but you can also apply a bit of distortion or delay, but it's up to you. Okay, now the other cool thing, let's say we can do minor chord. Just hold that down. We'll put a bunch of delay on it just to get it longer. Probably like a one. If I put minor scale, I think I could make something that sounds sort of like an ARP, which would be kind of cool. So we could try that and just do this to it. And let's see how that sounds like. Put it at 0 and put it up. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sustain this sound out. And then just do that. Let's see how that sounds like. I think that might be a cool idea to use Portal for. So we're just going to have maybe an A running all the way through. Again, I'm just holding one note on there, minor scale. So maybe we could do minor pentatonic minor. And then from there, we can use maybe one of the modulators or the steps. And again, we're creating this out of just this sound. A lot of resonations is probably going to have to deal with this. I'm sure if we go fast. But again, we can do a lot of really cool stuff with Portal. So again, you can utilize Portal any way you want, guys. So we've talked a little bit about the mods, what they can do, what you can do with them. Again, there's a humanize feature, so it randomizes the coordinate points, just in case you don't want it to sound the same the whole time. As you can see there, from there, you do have a master where you can, and also a bit of a compressor, just because some of these grains might get a little too crazy, as you already know. So again, you can do a lot of really cool stuff with Portal. I personally like to do my own patches when I'm working on stuff because I kind of have an idea of what I want it to sound like. Now, throughout this whole video, if you heard effects you liked and always wondered how they were made, well, yeah, now you know. You don't necessarily need Portal for this because, again, there is going to be an alternative called Crystallizer from Sound Toys, which is something very similar to it. Other than that, guys, that is going to be the video. If you like Portal, there it is. Buy it on sale. That's what I always say because I buy all my plugins on sale when I can. And with that being said, you guys take care. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time for another video. Take care. Peace out, and Portal out.